How is everybody doing tonight? Tuesday night, Tap and Birdie before the Wyndham. I have a very special guest with me tonight, Joe Idone, also known as Tour Picks. So happy to have him on tonight. He's on Preferred Lines. He works for Odd Checker. He does a bunch of different things, Jock Market. And his co-host, Chad Eichart, had the best week of his life on my podcast. So I figured I'd bring you on and bring the good juju from Tap and Birdie, and you're going to have a massive week, and we're all going to win some money. So thanks for coming on tonight, Joe.
Well, it's good, brother. Hey, I'm all about it, man. If you're bringing good juju to Chad, I'm sure hopefully some of that can rub off on myself. We could all use a little bit. So yeah. I'm fired up. Let's talk Wyndham.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I'm wearing my Preferred Line shirt. I had to put it on for the podcast, Joe. Thankfully sent it to me after some deliberation. It took a little bit to actually get it in the mail, but I'm very happy. It was a perfect opportunity to wear it every night. But yeah, there's so much content out there, and you and Chad are appointment television on Monday nights after Rob. So if you're in the chat, we got shout out Rob, our good friend, Jazz the Goat. He messaged me for a side wager this week. I said, I already took your money last week. I don't want to do it again. Like, I don't want to be too rude. So this event, Wyndham, it's kind of your shining moment, and this is what you did last year is what everyone wants. Everyone wants some life-changing money just by gambling on golf and doing DFS. So I want you to talk about a little bit last year, what Sunday was like, what your expectations were going into the week, and how that 100K changed your life 1 year ago.
Cool. So, yeah, like I feel like we're kind of in the same boat. Like, I'm not a huge stakes. Like, I do this for fun. I put in way too much energy and time into it every week. But like, I've got a job, like a steady job that I use to like feed my family and all that stuff. So this is just kind of like extra. It's a hobby to me, right? But I'm not pouring in thousands of dollars a week. So the dream, I guess, that with DraftKings is that you throw a couple lineups in like the drive to the green or their big contest, and you hit 1 week, right? 1 week is just your week. So this was back last August at the Wyndham when the contests were like heavier on golf because basically it was the only sport running at that time. So it was like 500,000 for first. There was, I think, 98,000 entries in the contest. I put in 3. It was a $25 chip. I was in there. I had it started out hot. It was pretty good through Friday. I didn't even I knew I was doing well because I knew where my guys were at on the leaderboard. But like, I don't check DraftKings constantly. I'm more like the end of the night. I'll pull it up and see where my guys are at. So Chad, who was on your show, was the first one to kind of text me and be like, dude, you're in first. And this was like on Saturday. And I was like, holy shit. So it ends up like by the end of Saturday, I'm still in first place. And he's like, we have to tweet this. Like, we have to like get people on board. And I'm a little superstitious. So, I'm like, no, like it's not going to win. Like, I know how DraftKings works. Like, you're in first, you can go all the way down to 1,000th and you win like $20. After him like coercing me into doing it, finally we let it go. People sort of got on board and we're tracking it all throughout Sunday. I played golf that morning. Nice. I came home. I had plans to like remodel our guest bathroom. Like, not remodel, just give it a little facelift. You know what I'm saying? Like, do a little painting, do a little trim work, put some new knobs on. That kind of stuff. So I was home alone. I did that. I didn't want to change up my plans because I'm a karma person. I'm like, this is what I was planning to do. I don't want to mess with shit. So I did that, man. I sweated it on Shot Tracker. I thought when the tournament ended, because all my guys were in, there was one group left that I had finished in a tie for third, which was unbelievable. I think it was 65,000.
I think most people would be happy with that.
Oh, absolutely. Like over the moon, like couldn't wait to like call family and tell them, like, unbelievable on a $25 chip. Pulled up Periscope, was like kind of sweating it with people. And in that final group, Rob Oppenheim was not playing well. He missed a 4-footer on 18 to bogey, which bumped one of my guys from 11th to 10th, basically, gave him a couple additional points for finishing top 10, and put me in a tie for second. And it was like a $38,000 difference.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was like dream come true for me. That's the story. Finished out like $115,000 for the week on $125 total in entry fees. And cashed it out, man. I still play small stakes. Like I still put in 3-4 lineups into a couple of the big contests. I play Nagel's League. I play Golf Land. You know, I play the little like $5 ones because I enjoy that. And I don't want to start dumping thousands of dollars into DraftKings because I know how lucky I got and how hard it is. But that's the story. Like I think it's like kind of important for some people to know on there that like you don't have to be like auto lineup generators, 150 max lineup, because a lot of people post like they're entering 40 grand into DraftKings a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you enter 40 grand and you win 100, that's awesome. But that's like me entering $100 and winning $300.
Yeah. No, and it's so great because that's like what we're all trying to do. Like that is the dream of everybody on this app that plays golf DFS or gambles on golf. And that's what's so special about this industry is that you can really win some life-changing, amazing money. You're not sweating out even odds every week. I mean, how many people are hitting these 50-plus winners every week and making some serious returns? Like it's just such a great industry, and I'm so happy that it's growing. And that everyone wants to be in it, and it's so great. And I'm glad we have our little corner on the Twitter world. So I'm glad you have good. You couldn't have better course history at this course as a handicapper. So let's get into the card. Let's get into this week. It's an interesting week. Not the greatest field in the whole world, but still a lot of great guys. And since it's we had back-to-back weeks, no cut events. So I'm very much looking forward to a cut event. We could place top 40s. We're getting good top 20 odds. The last 2 weeks haven't been good to me, but I'm very happy to move forward. So at the top of the board, Webb probably has like the best course history of like anyone at any course here. He could use some more wins. He's going to be the highest owned guy on DraftKings. He's at 10-1. Hasn't been great recent form. Are you going to play any Webb? Are you going to bet any Webb? What are you thinking about Webb this week?
I'm not going to bet Webb, but I am going to play him in DraftKings.
Okay.
I played him last year, and like, so my thing with DraftKings is like, I don't really care so much about ownership. I've always said this, and it's probably a wrong take. It's probably an amateur take, but I played him last year and he was 37% owned in that contest that I won. So there's 98,000 entries, right? Almost 40,000 of those entries had Webb, and I had Webb. So like sometimes being contrarian, I feel like people put too much emphasis on that and they will pivot off of an obvious choice when all signs are pointing to a guy. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's Webb this week because the form isn't what it is coming into this event like it was last year, right? Yep. But at the same token, like you just mentioned it, the course history, like hasn't finished worse than third the last 4 times here. Some encouragement at St. Jude as well, 64 on Sunday. I feel like that was some good juju and gave him a little bit of confidence in these type of shorter Donald Ross courses. Like course knowledge matters. There's spots that you can't be and spots that you need to be on the green in order to take advantage of your opportunities. I think he understands that as much as anyone. And he's third in DraftKings pricing, right? He's first on your odds board, but third in DraftKings pricing. So that's a little bit of leverage there, I feel like, in DraftKings. And he's not going to be 37% owned like he was last year. Like he may be in the low 20s. But I still, like, to me, I think he's the best play in the range. Where do you sit on him?
I think that it obviously makes sense. I mean, course history plays such a big role in handicapping. And I feel like, especially this event, there are just some guys that always seem to play well here because it has a very specific style and course fit where it's hitting fairways and having wedges into green and not being super long. So I will not be playing any Webb in DraftKings. I won't be betting him at 10-1. But out of the top 3 guys, Webb, Decky, and Louis, I think he will probably finish best out of those three, in my opinion. Decky's so interesting to me because he had so much hype at the Olympics and he played really well and he was in it and he didn't play that great on Sunday and miss a lot of putts. But then he shows up the next week. It's like this guy's not stopping. And there was a big narrative about Olympics and, two guys in the Olympics were in the final group. And, last week, I don't know what Hideki's final score was, but he went low. And obviously this week is going to be a birdie fest. And some weeks, like last week, I thought the winning score was going to be about 14. And it turned out to be like it was higher than expected. And Harris at one point was like 20 under. So I'm glad that we at least know for sure that this week is going to be a pure birdie fest. And in my opinion, would be best to play guys that have proven that they can go low in a tournament and cross over between over 17 under by Sunday, because I think there's really no doubt that it's going to be like that this week. So the next guy at 16-1, obviously is my favorite golfer in the world. I usually love him, but Louis is not someone, in my opinion, that is a great play this week. Obviously, I bet him because I'm not going to miss out if he plays well, and I don't care about the money. It doesn't matter to me. But in my opinion, if anyone's listening and they want to play Louis and they want to bet him top 20 or top 10, I don't know this week because Louis' game for me is more in that sweet spot of winning score like 9 to 10 under because he's so consistent and makes a lot of pars, but he's not someone that can just go super, super low. So I'm a little hesitant with my favorite golfer in the world with Louis this week. Do you feel the same way about Lou?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually not on Team Louis. He's so good and so close and just hasn't broke through. But it's like for me, like Louis, when he does win, has just as good a chance of winning like the U.S. Open as he does the Wyndham. And like that may sound crazy to say, but this is like a weird week because it's right before the FedEx Cup playoffs. It's coming from a WGC. It's coming from the Olympics. So the field's not great, but he can win anywhere essentially when he's playing well, and he can finally close the deal on a Sunday, and he's shown us that against some of the best fields. I don't love him this week, and I tend to agree that I would rather see him on a more difficult test than some place where there's going to be guys potentially shooting 60 and 61s a day or two. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be really, really low scores. And same with Hideki. Like I worry that can Hideki make enough birdies, to compete? Like a Hideki will get up and down from anywhere for par, but like, is he going to sink enough 20-foot birdie putts to get himself into contention and to eventually win? Of course he could, but those are my sort of concerns about a week like this with those guys when you have to pay such a short odds price and a high DraftKings price.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking to start my lineups and my betting card a little more down. Some guy I want to talk about that is very popular this week, is an excellent golfer, has shown up really well recently. I think a lot of people are on him, is Russell Henley. I know you like him this week. I placed an outright on him. I got a 170 top 20 on it, which I think is a great price, and I really like that because I do think he will play well this week. I don't know if he can win, but I will be playing Russell Henley. I know he's very popular. He's one of the most popular guys on DraftKings, one of the most clicked guys. What do you like about Russell this week?
A couple things. Number one for me, and I put out a tweet earlier this week, it's the wedge play. Like wedges at Wyndham. Like this is what I said last year on the podcast with Chad. That's what I'm saying this year. Like I'm sticking to it. And you look at those ranges. So I put up both ranges because I think they vary a little bit depending on the type of the player. I think it's important to look at both. So 125 to 150, which is basically, 56 gap wedge, pitching wedge maybe for some guys, and then 150 to 175, which starts to creep into 9 iron and maybe 8 iron for some players. I think it's important to kind of look at both because on some of these holes, it is very important to hit a fairway. So I think some of these guys may be dialing back. Russell Henry in the last 24 rounds is first in the shorter range, second in the longer of those two ranges. So his wedge play has been fantastic. He's great at a course with easy scoring conditions in general, rated out first for me there. Hits enough fairways, and I think he has the ability to get a really red hot putter and couple that in with some decent current form and course history where he top 10 here last year. Those stars align. He was the first bet for me this week at 35 to 1.
No, I think, and that's why I bet it. Sometimes, like you said, with ownership, sometimes I might get a little wary with that, but I just think he checks too many boxes this week to be ignored. And if he can top 10 here last year in worse form, then I believe that he can excel this year in riding much better form. And like you talked about, him just being great with wedges. So moving down the board a little, I don't really like this range, but a guy I want to talk about is Sung J M. I know my good friend Andy likes him this week. He's great on Bermuda. He has decent course history here. He's been playing well. If Andy is playing him, I trust that opinion. Do you have any opinions on Sung J this week? Do you think he's a good play? Maybe someone to start your DraftKings lineup with or bet at 30 to 1?
Yeah, I think I am going to play him in DraftKings. Andy, like you mentioned, is as sharp as they get. So if he's leaning that way, I know my buddy Ben Cooley is on him as well. Mentioned some stuff about just really like he's a great Bermuda putter, and he had a really shitty week last week on Bermuda, which like you look back historically, those guys tend to bounce back really quickly and aggressively in the following tournament if it's still on Bermuda. He did it when he won the Honda Classic. He had a horrid week the week before, but a great Bermuda player. It's just I don't like, my concern is I just don't feel like the form has been great all year. And I've played him a lot, and I'll see the numbers, and he's getting there, and then all of a sudden he's making a double on a par 4. I instead went with Brian Harman reluctantly. It was really between those two guys, and it just came down to I think Brian can make birdie Brian. I think he can make more birdies. I think that his wedge play has been much better than Sung J M's all year long in terms of gap wedge, pitching wedge, 9-iron. I think that he hits the fairways just as much as him, and he's putting it much better, more consistently at this time. So it was really like splitting hairs kind of for me between those two. My gut just told me to kind of go with Harman, who I know is one of like the Georgia boys. So he's familiar with like this region and Bermuda grass of golf and this type of course. So those are my choices there.
No, I like Harman over him this week. And I think Harman's best surface is Bermuda. And he obviously plays best on easy conditions. And Brian Harman's somebody that has been one of the most consistent golfers all year. Just so many top 20s, consistently contending every single week. I like RBC as a comp this week. Webb won there. He's obviously been great here. He had a T13 at RBC, and he just put a lot of great finishes together. Even at the Open, where you wouldn't think he could contend, he played well. Yeah. St. Jude, I don't really care about that. So I'm fine with Brian Harman in this range, because over a guy like Fleetwood, $200 more expensive, I think that's better play. Moving down the board a little bit, Siwoo Kim is very interesting to me, and I marked it on my notes being like, I'm surprised that his ownership isn't higher and more people aren't playing him. I'm looking on Fanshare Sports right now. He's about 7.8% owned. This is his course. We talk about course history. We talk about Webb Simpson. I think that Siwoo has a very strong case to have top 5 course history here. And Siwoo Kim is a guy that pops and does well in random events when you don't actually expect him to. And all the stars might not align for it to happen, but then it just happens. So I don't know his top 20 number. I'm going to look. It's probably plus 160, so I could probably get like a plus 180. I don't think that is a horrible bet. And I think it's almost a little good thing that he made an 11 or a 13 on a hole, because people just see that quick flash and they don't want to play him this week. So I think he might be a good DraftKings play. And, someone in the industry that obviously everyone knows and finds their stuff is Pat Mayo. And Siwoo literally said, bet me at Wyndham.
Yeah, and Wyndham.
So
Yeah.
I think that means something. I feel like he might be a better DraftKings play than an outright bet or something like that. But I think he's someone I'm certainly interested in this week. So next range, guys, we haven't talked about Bubba, Bobby Mack, Kevin Na, Woodland, Ricky, Seamus Power. You hit a massive outright on it, and Kisner. I know you like Kisner. I'd really like to have a conversation about Kisner this week.
Let's do it.
And I just think it's a very interesting point. And one of my good friends in the industry, John, PGA Tout, he was on Twitter saying Kevin Kisner is going to win this week. And we're going to side wager on it. And I think it's not a great play. You think it's a good play. So give me the case for Kevin Kisner this week and why you like him and why you think he's a good play.
So Kiz is an interesting sort of case study. A couple of things that aren't necessarily going to show up on Fantasy National that are reasons that I like him. One, he's told us for a number of years that there are a handful, maybe two handfuls of golf courses on throughout the PGA Tour season that he can show up, compete, and win. And occasionally he'll pop at one of these longer courses, but these shorter courses are in his wheelhouse. He's not long off the tee. He's accurate. This is his thing, right? The other thing is I've heard him say that he really has an affinity and a love for Donald Ross courses. The course that he plays at in Aiken, Georgia is an old school Donald Ross course, par 70. He loves it. This is an old school Donald Ross course. The Rocket Mortgage Classic is sort of a newer version of a Ross course, but he played really well there in Ace. So in his last 4 starts, there's 2 really bad ones and there's 2 really good ones where he top 10. Third here last year, so has the course history thing, and I just like his ability to sort of have a comfort zone and a confidence coming into the week. It affects your prep and your attitude and your mindset going into a week when you're okay, there's 7 weeks a year where I can go out there and hoist a trophy, and I know this is one of them, right? When he's going to St. Jude, when he's going to the U.S. Open, when he's going to Royal St. George's, he's going there trying to cash a 45th place check, and he's told us that. He's very honest about it. So there's concerns certainly regarding some of his approach play recently, but I think there's enough positive signs in things that may be outside of your traditional stats that line up well for him, and I think should suit him well at a course like this. And I think the ownership will be relatively tempered, given some of that poor form and a really bad Sunday last week, a la just kind of Siwoo. He imploded and kind of mailed it in a sense, just to get here.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I think there's really a lot, take recent form out of it. There's a lot of reasons to play him this week. And I honestly understand it. It obviously makes sense. In my opinion, just kind of what I'm seeing, when he went back-to-back top 10s, and I had him at Rocket Mortgage top 10. It was a big ticket. I had him top 20. I liked him. I felt like the reason why people played him and he performed was because he showed good recent form at the U.S. Open. So a U.S. Open, Torrey Pines, super long. Now, of course, he's going to contend on. He made the cut. He played decent. And people were like, well, if he can make the cut at a course that he has no business making the cut on, then maybe he's riding some recent form. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he lost it in the last 2 tournaments, but that gives me a little concern because Kevin Kisner is a guy that is a very shrieky player. So I think the whole Kevin Kisner debate really comes down to what you want to take out of his last 2 starts, because the two top 10s, it wasn't that long ago. We're talking about a very short range of time between. So I don't think I'm going to go full fade on Kisner. I won't be playing him, but in my opinion, his last two tournaments, I like playing Kevin Kisner off a good round where he might not contend normally and he's riding some recent form and he's ball striking well. I'm very excited to see where he finishes this week because I'm not usually like, I like my guys and that's it. And then I'm not like actively fading people. And that's what's so great about golf betting. But I won't be playing him this week. I think it's a valid case because the course sets up so perfect for him. Just the last two rounds worry me a little bit, and I'd like to play Kisner when he's riding a little bit of recent form. But I could obviously be completely wrong about this because I've had maybe the worst 3 weeks ever, and I've been horrible, and I haven't been doing anything right. But I will side wager with John because I need to. But it will be very interesting.
It's like hard.
Where would you set his over under this week? Where would you set his over under finishing position this week? What do you think is a fair over under finishing position?
55 to 1, probably I would say like 24th, 25th.
I was thinking 23.
I think he's gonna fall in, like it's weird because okay, so 73rd at the Open. He made the cut there where he probably really had no business making the cut. And if you remember, he was out solo like in that final day. He went out by himself and played in like 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I think it was just like a thing for him to like, let me see how fast I can play this. And like, you know, the PGA Tour will post that I played in 2 hours and a half and I'm not really in this anyways. And then last week, it's hard for me because I intentionally didn't dig too much into how he lost 9 strokes on approach last week, which sounds horrible. But with so much water on that course, like it could have literally been 2 holes that he played poorly. Like Siwoo, I'm looking at Siwoo, lost 16.8 strokes on approach last week. Like how many of those do you think came on that one hole? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like he had a lot of birdies. So he could have I want to like be pro Kiz, so I didn't look too much into how awful he was, but I have a feeling he flushed a sleeve in the water on a hole. And that's probably why that is. He's really crafty around the greens. He's a really good lag putter, and he can get hot. So that's why I'm rolling with him.
So we'll see. The over-under set at 23.5. I will be taking the over. You and John have the under. I'm looking forward to it. So I want to talk about a guy this week that I tweeted out early Monday morning, and I thought it was a great play. A lot of other people have the same opinion, which is great. I'm happy about that. But I really like Charles Schwartzel this week, and I bet him top 20, top 10, top 5 outright. So I'm betting him every single way. I'm going to play him in DraftKings. I tweeted about the reason why I like him. First is Bermuda is his best surface, and I feel like Bermuda is a surface that people just have their favorite, and they seem to perform well on more than POA and Bent. So I'm targeting guys that like Bermuda and have played well on it. So I like him for that reason. He has 2 top 5s in pure birdie fest this season. So the 3M, he came in second. He was up there. And then the Brian Nelson, he played really well. And I think Brian was Bermuda because Sam Burns won. So I think that's right. He doesn't have great course history here. I mean, he missed the cut last year, but when he played it a while ago, he played well. And I just think it's a good number. And I think he's someone that people might not be thinking about a lot. And he's someone that when a lot of boxes are checked, you just have to play it and just hope it works out. He's 15% owned. That's not horrible. And he's 50 to 1. I got a plus 270 top 20, which is amazing. And a plus 410 top 10 on it. I think those are great numbers. I think you should bet it. I'm betting them. They're going to be my larger plays for the week. So I'm all in on Charles this week. Do you have any opinion on him?
I don't really. I like your take on it. I saw that. He's not really a guy that I normally bet, so I would have never really looked at him had you not sort of tweeted that out. But the more that I think about it, it kind of makes like he's had some good runs at the Valspar, which is a shorter, like Bermuda, like you kind of mentioned, and I'm familiar with it now, like being down here in Florida for a while, but I'm originally a Midwest guy. So when I first moved down, it takes time to get used to. And like it's the weird one. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much grain in terms of reading putts, but almost more than putting, Brian, is like chipping, like around the greens. Like you like when my buddies come down here from Ohio who are like the same handicap as me, they can't play with me down here because it's so awkward for them and they always complain about like around the greens. So it's something that if you're familiar with it and comfortable with it, it's a huge advantage going onto a course that is Bermuda grass throughout, like basically tee to green on every hole. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. I haven't done anything as of yet on Schwartzel, but you make some compelling points.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's usually like that. I'm playing him this week. I tweeted it out. I like it. I wagered a lot of money on it. I hope it works out and he finishes T7. I'll be a very happy person. He doesn't have to win. I'm not a big outright guy, so that's really my favorite play of the week. I'm getting into more of the other guys. I bet, but in the next range, so we got Wolf, Woodland, Power, Streelman, Gooch, Munoz. I'm betting Munoz, Ricky, Brandt, Vegas, EVR, Grace. Any of these guys on your card? Any of these guys you're playing in DraftKings? Anybody you like in this range?
A few, but like no one that I'm really heavy on. Like I'm probably gonna stick to like Kisner and above and then drop down. Like my next guy that I'm sort of targeting, and I know that you've kind of played him in the past a little bit, is Hammer and Hank. Like I'm going back to the train on him. I'm just not willing to hop off yet. It's concerning because he had that such great run. And I know, like I'm the first to admit that a lot of it was hinging on him making 55, 60-foot putts, which isn't reliable and isn't predictive of the following week. But a lot of the other stuff checks out really well. Greens in regulation, par four scoring. His approach play has been fantastic. I think the confidence coming in, he had a pull out of, was it the 3M when his dad was sick? So he was playing pretty well that week and was crazy owned in terms of ownership. Like everyone was on him that week.
And he was playing well. Like he was having a good week.
He was playing well. He was going to make the cut and probably top 20 that week. Yeah. I think that like people may have forgotten about him a little bit, and he's sort of my favorite play. I like Zach Johnson and Harold a little bit right there, but I think that Hank is the safest play in this range to get you a made cut. And really, when you start getting down in this range, you've got to get the 6 for 6 through if you're going to win a GPP. And you've got to have some of these guys have one of their better weeks, right? They've got a top 10 or top 8. And I think he has that potential.
Yeah, no, I think Hank's, regardless of his ownership and why he's so loved, I think that he is a great play this week. I think with some of these guys that have contended consistently in these birdie fests, like there's a reason for that. Like there's a reason why they play well in certain events. And, you know, the only reason why people might be hesitant on him would be because he withdrawed and he had something with his dad. But that is so unquantifiable and could actually have a positive effect on him, not a negative. Yeah. So I really like just going back to him this week. And he's not going to be as highly owned as he was when he was going on that crazy run. So yeah, I think it's a good play. I'm happy you're playing with it and you're sticking to it because I sometimes we do this every week. You know, we're constantly grinding it out. Doesn't matter the tournament. We're playing guys and sometimes it's like, I'm just going to ride the hot horse. Like you think, you want to think the voice in your back of your head says, oh, they can't keep this up forever. It's not always going to happen. They're going to fall apart. And then they just keep playing well. And you're like, well, why did I even hop off them? Like, so I just think even if it bites you in the ass, it's worth it to see it through and see what is going to happen. So I like that. I like that play. So a guy I placed a top 10 and a top 20 on, and I like this week, and then has been the Birdie Fest king recently, is Vegas. He's going to be high owned. I really don't care. But you want a guy that has proven that he could go low and shoot over -17 and be in the top 5 of an event. Look, the guy isn't a great winner. He's not like whatever. That doesn't matter. I don't need him to win for him to make me money. I'm betting him top 10. I'm betting him top 20. Plus 240 top 20. Great price. Plus 450 top 10. So he has 4. Okay, so 9th at Brian Nelson Birdie Fest, Palmetto, second. Like, literally, that was one of the high scoring events, lowest scoring events of the year. John Deere, 11th, just missed top 5. And then the 3M 2 weeks ago, a second, and he played well in the Olympics. So we have the recent form. We have the showing that he could do well in birdie fests. He is long off the tee, and you might not think that would be good here, but he might be more accurate off the tee because he doesn't have to pull driver.
Sure.
And he can just club down and hit the fairway. He has good numbers from these approach numbers that we're talking about, 150 to 175. So I will be playing Vegas this week. He's going to be decently owned, but I don't care. I'm betting him top 10, top 20, 15% owned. So I'm all about Vegas this week.
Yeah, I think he makes a solid play. The ball striking and the greens and reg have been great. Like, the only thing, like, my only pause for concern on him, and you mentioned what could kind of mitigate it, is clubbing down off the tee and finding the fairway. But there's not many other, if a single other course on tour without a ton of water on it where hitting the fairway is as important as it is at Sedgefield. Like, historically, 6 of the last 7 winners here have been top 10 that week in terms of percentage of fairways hit. In most of those guys actually in like first, second, or third the week in fairways hit. Vegas is like 138th on the list, so that's the one concern. But the ball striking can make up for that. If he's, it's hard because fairways is one of those weird stats where you can be a yard off of it, and it pays to be 25 yards further down if you're a yard offline. You know what I mean? So you're going to get a missed fairway for being 2 yards off the fairway, or you can be 25 yards off the fairway. But I know, sort of historically speaking here, that coming into these green complexes and finding yourself on the correct level and leaving yourself the proper putt is much easier to do from the fairway. And like you said, he could totally mitigate that a lot of times. But I think taking hybrid or 4-iron off a lot of these tees, finding the fairways, and then letting his approach play talk, because it's been fantastic.
Yeah. So it's not a play that I'm I'm not like super confident in, because his off the tee game scares me a little bit, but I'm just playing him off the pure fact that he has just been amazing in birdie fest and is just riding amazing recent form, and like consistently top 10ing is something that a lot of people have a hard time doing, and he seems to have no problem with it. So at $7,400, I want to place the top 20 on him. I might have a little bit of a concern. He's fairway king. He's great at wedges. It makes a lot of sense. You bet, Ches. I think I'll get there on a top 40. Can you sell me on Ches this week?
It's just that, like, it's what I just spoke about. It's finding the fairways. He's second next to Brendan Todd in the field. And really, like, it was concerning, like, earlier this summer, where all of a sudden the iron play just left and it got real bad. He's turned it around. 6 starts in a row. He's gained strokes on approach. He's really good from 150 to 175, actually rated out first in the last 24 rounds. So the sort of 9-irons that he's going to have a lot of coming into these greens, he's been fantastic. I worry about the putting. I worry that the course history is not great, but I think that the price point at 7,400 there is something that I'm willing to sort of roll the dice on.
Yeah, and it's like, again, like, that's why I'm happy about the top 40s, because it's like you don't need them to be like Colin Morikawa at the Open. Like, they could just make the cut and play decent. So I think a plus 160 top 40 is not a bad play. I think that might be on my card. I might go back and forth. Like you said, the putting, a little worried about, because, and also we're talking about Bermuda. His absolute worst surface is Bermuda. Like, I'm just looking at Fantasy National, but that's a known thing. So I'm going back and forth on Ches. It gives me a little bit of concern, but I think that sometimes when we do this and we go back and forth, it's better to just play it and see what happens, because it feels worse, in my opinion, to have a thought in your head and have a bet that you think you're going to place, and then you don't place it, and then it turns out then playing him and he plays shitty. So I think that it might make my card.
Yeah, and he's a great price. And one of the things, like, you use Fantasy National, right?
Yeah, and I use FanShare, and but yeah.
Okay, well, one of the things that like I don't hear a lot of people that use it, but I actually use it quite a bit is the tournament simulator tool on Fantasy National. So it's one of the tabs there that basically simulates the tournament 1,000 times based on the length of the hole, what par is, difficulty. It sort of factors everything in. And then you can look and it will show you like the amount of times in the simulation your guy makes the cut, top 20. Ches is number one in terms of top 20, is like basically in this whole $7,000 range. He's 7,400. He's basically, this has him making, a top 20 like 1/3 of the time, which I think is really good. And I just think that, it's a good, helpful tool when sort of betting the top 10s and top 20s to kind of look to isolate different players and give them sort of pros and cons. Just another little wrinkle of a little tool that they have available that I like.
Yeah, no, I think that works well. I think I'm just gonna bet it. I'm not, looking for much, just a top 40, nothing crazy for me. So a guy that I played a decent amount, he's been on my card recently, and he's one of these guys that has just consistently been good in Birdie Fest, is Adam Schenk.
Yeah.
For a top 40, about the same price, plus 160. He was great at the Barracuda. I had him top 40 at the 3M, I think, and he was in it all week and then fell out of it on Sunday. But I don't want that to affect my decision making. Do you have any opinion on Shank? I think I'm going to play him. I don't want to miss it because he's been playing so well in these events that are just so low scoring, and I just see it with him. I don't want to fall off on him.
He's been so good. You're right. The form has been great. You can't like. It doesn't make sense to when you see a guy that's playing well that is consistently getting a good high betting number and also a good DraftKings price. It makes no sense to sort of dip your toes in and go in and out on that guy. Like when you've got a guy, you've got to stick it out with them. Like I did this. I've had plenty of situations where this hasn't worked. Like I've been on Doc, I've been on Denny, I've been on these guys that just never quite broke through. But then there's ones where you saw it coming and you just stuck with it, like Seamus Power, like you mentioned earlier, like Cam Davis. Like these are guys when you see them and you consistently play them and you see that they're 90, 100, 110 to 1 and it's not changing, even though their form is good. Like just keep playing it. 7,300. I mentioned that tool earlier on Fantasy National. He's actually second right behind Ches in terms of the amount of times he top 20s. I think he makes a great play. He played fantastic again last week at the Barracuda. And I see no reason that that's going to change this week.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be on my card for top 20. He's just playing well and playing good Birdie Fest golf, and I'm down to bet him. So someone that is so interesting this week, and I know you talked him up in your lunchtime long shots and everyone who makes model, he's like doing so well. And it's really interesting. It's like really interesting that someone this far down the betting board is like everyone loves him this week. And in my gambling chats with my friends, they're talking about it. Ryan Armour.
Yeah.
I just feel like it feels like Herman from last week. Mm-hmm. And Herman started out super hot, and that's fine, and he didn't finish well. And also I'm just talking, like, I don't like people that shit on people that like talk about their, like, if you tout somebody that was like min priced and they're in the top 10 on Thursday and Friday, like, are you just gonna like not tweet about it? Like, we're like content creators, like this is like what we do. So this pet peeve of mine, even if he didn't pan out, it doesn't matter. You have to talk about it on Thursday. So I don't want it to be like that this week. But Ryan Armour, you just trust the models and you trust the recent form and you just play them.
It's sort of. So a couple of things. Like for a guy, and I ran a model here with, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different stats in it. Like for him to finish first at 110 to 1 and $7,000 is crazy. But the big, like, I'm not going to lie here. The big thing for me is like a lot of bias. So I grew up with his brother. Buddies of mine like play with his brother still now. Like he's grew up in Akron. I grew up in Kent. Like we were very, like I knew him like growing up. Like he was a great player. I've bet him a lot over the years. Like he's cashed me some massive top 10 tickets. I remember at the Travelers like 2 years ago, I think he was like 40 to 1 to top 10. he has these big weeks. So if he's my guy and I root for him and then he's number one in my model, like I gotta bet him.
It's a no-brainer. And again, just being conservative, just trying to make money. Plus 160, top 40. He doesn't need to be the best player in the world.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to bet it. I think I'm going to bet it. I really have no problem with it. I mean, look, 2 top 10s at Barbasol and 3M, both Birdie Fest. Like, these were recent events. He didn't play super well at the Barracuda last week. Whatever. I mean, his proximity distances are great. All the stats that we're looking at that are very evident this week, he does well in. So, I mean, why not play it?
4 straight years at this course. And I said course history matters, but it's not just course history. It's good course history.
Yeah.
Like 25th, 22nd, 8th, 4th. Like that's fantastic. Like he's doing great. This is a good fit for him. He's got a lot of motivation coming into this week, which I'm not going to like give as a huge plus, but I think it can only help someone like him. Everything, like all 10 stats that I ran across the board, he was solid. So he's my guy. I'm going to ride with him.
No, I'm ready for it. He's on a lot of people's cards and I don't care. I'm not going to miss out on it just for no reason, just because he's popular. That's not something I want to do. So a guy that had a crazy number on him, he's $7,200 on DraftKings. I'm really debating a top 20 on him, is Chris Kirk. And I kind of want to play him. I think he's a good top 40 bet. He does not have great recent form. He's coming off 2 missed cuts, 12th at Rocket Mortgage. He hasn't shown up well, but he had this run where Valero, he was 6th. RBC, I said I like RBC as a comp this week. Mm-hmm. He was 7th there. Chris Kirk, someone that's likes to find the fairway, good approach numbers. So he's someone I'm kind of going a little back and forth on whether or not I want to bet him top 40. Do you have any opinions on Chris Kirk for a top 40 at plus 120? I don't like that number. I'd probably bet a top 30 or top 20.
Yeah, I don't really have a negative opinion on him. I'm just I only play so many lineups, and there's too many other guys in the low 7s. Like I like Ches, I like Shank, I like Armour, I like Joel Damon. So for me, it was just like going to those guys versus going to Kirk. But great, he hits a ton of fairways. He's great around the greens and can get the hot putter. Like I think when you're talking guys in this range, like any of them can pop any given week. They're hard to find those particular weeks. So I see no reason if you are a fan to not bet it.
Yeah. Okay. So a guy, I know you talked about him in your lunchtime long shots. And so when we did our match with PGA Tout and Andy and Jers, they asked to do a player comp. And I like this guy. Like I like Kadira because I touted him at the Travelers, which I went to, and he played really well.
Yeah.
And he is very good driver wedge. And that's what this week is going to be.
Right.
And he's a super high number. And he's been playing decent. Like he obviously had some bad, but like he's been playing decent. Like he's been playing. The missed cut at the 3M, but 20 at the Barbasol, top 40 at the Travelers, 19th at Palmetto. 13. So I don't know if we reach his peak, but for a top 40 at like plus 250, it's not that bad for Kadira. So you like Kadira this week?
Yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense. I think he's sort of a safe play to kind of plug in there. You mentioned it, top 10 in fairways, top 10 in really short wedges. He's got 4 top 20s in his last 8 starts. So it's either been really, really good or really, really bad. There's a reason that he's 350 to 1 and $6,600 is because there's a ton of volatility there and you never quite know what you're going to get. But, he got his win in South Carolina. It was either North Carolina
or RBC.
Yeah. There you go.
Won RBC.
There's your comp.
That was my saying. That was my comp. Yeah, I'm playing him. I'm playing him this week. 100%.
Yeah.
Not even a question. Top 40. Not going to get too greedy, but I do think I got to play my boy. And that's kind of my game is driver wedge. I'm not good with so. Because we have similar games, he has good recent form, and I really said I like RBC as a comp, and that's his sole win. I think it's a play top 40. I'll pull up the number just to make sure, but It is
It's probably huge. I don't have the top
no,
40s, but he's 25 to 1 to top 10, which is a
yeah, no, he's
massive.
plus 300 top 40. I think that's a
Yeah.
great number. Just
Yeah.
got to make the cut. All right. Is there anyone else you want to talk about? We scraped the bottom of the barrel. We talked about the guys we liked. I really appreciate everyone who's watched tonight, watched throughout the whole thing, watching tomorrow, watching on YouTube tomorrow. I really appreciate it. You know, Joe and I really enjoy putting out content for everybody, and we're very appreciative of all the fans. So got to shout out Sarah. Sarah, how you doing? Thanks for joining at the end, Sarah. Pleasure to see you in here. So do you have any closing thoughts? Anybody you like
I
want
mean,
to
the
talk
one
about
guy down
before?
there that is like stoned min at 6K is Gellerman. Like, where do you sit on this guy? Like, I haven't played him. I know some of my buddies have been on him, and he's been playing really well. He's awesome at approach, greens and reg, ball striking numbers have been fantastic. And I think that he's like, the price is a little bit of a mistake. Like, is everyone just going to go up top and then play Stone Min 6K Gellerman this week and get burned? Like, is he this week's Herman more so than Armour?
Okay, so he has a top 40, which is really all you should play him, and that you would be happy with that, playing him on DraftKings. At the John Deere, that was a birdie fest, played really well. Barbasol missed the cut, and then the 3M wasn't quite the birdie fest, but a T16. I mean, people are touting him for a reason. There must be something going on, and I think it makes half sense. I at $6,000 on DraftKings, you could really do a lot with your lineups this week. But I think he's probably a better top 40 play, because this week people don't love the top of the board. And like we were talking about, it's not like there's a bunch of guys we want to play at the top. So it might just free you up for no reason.
Right.
But
that's kind of what I'm feeling. When I built my first couple of lineups, I'm like, initially it stuck out to me, but then I'm like, I like the build better of going with a little bit more balance. Like, I don't feel the need to stack like Hideki Webb and then play Gellerman and like go really cheap all elsewhere, like play 2 6K guys. I'd rather kind of, stick in that sevens range, 7s and 9s. Like, I think it's more of the play.
Yeah, no, but plus 500 for a top 40. I mean, that is just an excellent number. I really think that is an absolutely really good number. But for DraftKings, like we're talking about, it's not like I'm like running to roster everybody at the top of the board this week, because it just doesn't seem like the week to do that. And we've seen at these birdie fests, these winners have been over 100 to 1. It's not like it's really striking how all these events recently, there's just been some really long shot breakthrough winners. And something I kind of fell into recently was just thinking that, oh, well, that guy never wins. Like, he's not going to win this week. So that kind of happened with Abe Answer and some other guys that they get their breakthrough win. I mean, I really feel like this season, and we're coming to the close on it, unfortunately, but I felt like it was really the year of the breakthrough winner. Like,
yeah, we had a lot. We had a lot of like long shots this year, like in and out of like guys 100 to 1, like as many as I can remember. And I think that's why like I love doing the like lunchtime long shots. And it's like, I'll be the first to admit it's like a corny little thing that I started like a couple of years ago, but I think it's like sort of found its little niche. And it's like it like that, the long shots is like what makes golf betting so fun. And like, you don't get that in other sports. Like, you can bet NFL Sundays as much as you want. You can go and take whoever you want at 125 to 1 to win the Super Bowl this year. They've got no fucking
chance.
Like, you can bet 125 to 1 on the Cavs to win the NBA title next year. They've got no fucking chance of beating the Lakers. Like, it all comes from like the top. And like, that's where golf is just so much different. And I think that's what makes it fun. And that's why I enjoy doing it. And it gives you the chance to like have a little stake, 10, 20, 25 bucks, whatever you want to play and whatever you feel comfortable with. And if you can bet 25 bucks and end up, with a $3,000 payout like Chad did or whoever, it's awesome. Like, that's something you always sort of remember and like will make up for a lot of other missed bets.
Yeah. And that's why like obviously why I do this and why like this industry is so great, because it's so unique to any other sport. And like, if you're betting baseball every day, it's like you're grinding out like 110 winners, and like in the only way you're going to get rich off it is if like you
You go on an
throw a
epic
lot of
run.
money. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to have a lot of money to bet golf and be successful.
Right.
And this season was so great. I'm so glad I've been doing this, and I know I've run cold, and I had my worst Sunday ever, and I had 4 bad beats in one, and it was horrible. But I had some success earlier in the year, and I'm just trying. Like at one point, I was at like 40% ROI. Like professional gamblers are trying to get like 6%, like 4. They're happy with like 4 to 6% ROI. So if I finish the season in that range, maybe have 1 or 2 more winning weeks, I'm happy with the season. And at the end of the day, look, we put out picks and sometimes we win, but we're content creators and people like to listen to us, and we put out good content and we give out good information. So I'm very glad we were able to do this pod. It was a great pod. We had a lot of talked about a lot of guys. I really appreciate all the viewers, like I said before. So any closing thoughts to the degenerate space on the golf gambling Twitter?
No, man, Wyndham, like we talked about earlier, is a special week for me. I'm looking forward to it. Check me out on Preferred Lines. I do the pod with Chad on Mondays. I do a write-up sort of for Odds Checker on some of my DraftKings pick. Tomorrow night, I do a show with Rick Gaiman. I appreciate all of your people coming in here and you for having me on, and best of luck with everything, brother.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it. So again, I appreciate if you checked out the pod. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to end it. Have a great Tuesday, everybody, and let's win some money this week.